On November 13, 2016, Paris was attacked by Islamist terrorist group Daesh. In different locations in the center of Paris, sirens could be heard everywhere, since these attacks happened in different areas, in the 10th and 11th arrondissement of Paris, but also at the Stade de France, the French stadium. Paris has a population of over 2.5 million people within the city, and 12 million for all the Parisian region. Being France's capital, every measure must be taken and anticipated to ensure the safety of its population in case of any emergency. However, terrorist attacks are unpredictable. We don't always know about the emergency services who are on standby to rescue us. On November 13th, 130 people died, and over 350 were wounded that night. There were over 120 medical teams and 450 paramedics that included the Protection Civile de Paris, the civilian protection of the city of Paris. The Protection Civile is a federation that specializes in first aid emergency assistance, from traffic accidents to gunshot wounds, even with divers and search teams. Their job is to be the first aid on location and assist medical ER services with all their logistics. Etienne Blum is one of the coordinators. He has worked on many emergency situations and was working in Paris on November 13th. The civilian protection of Paris was created over 50 years ago with the support of the Général de Gaulle in 1965. The objective was to create a federation of paramedics on a national level. Right after World War II, and with the Cold War starting in Europe, the civilian protection was there to help the French civilian population and intervene if needed in any case of emergency. It started in Paris and then expanded its network all over France. Today, there are over 550 volunteers in Paris, and over 16,000 of them in France.
Quasiment 550 bénévoles sur Paris et 16 000 personnes sur toute la France. La protection civile française, donc c'est une fédération, la Fédération nationale de la protection civile.
The civilian protection is a federation, but doesn't receive most of its funds from the French government. We collect donations and offer our services for private events, such as concerts, festivals, shows, any crowded event where paramedics can be needed. This is how our organization can finance the equipment needed on the field. We also have CPR courses for people who want to learn what to do on the field in case of emergency. These classes cost €60 and can save a life. Every member of the Protection Civile has a high training level. Every week to every month, they meet and practice to make sure they are not forgetting anything. By being the first ones on site when someone is wounded or suffering a heart attack, they must know all the proper techniques and anticipate any situation. Our main mission as paramedics is to respond to any medical emergency. We work with the police department, the fire department, and the National Paramedics Department. But we also work with ER hospital services as well. Members of the Protection Civile do not receive a salary, and only 15% of their income comes from the French government. However, 55% of their financing comes from donations and from offering their services on different events.
J'ai eu l'appel
On the evening of November 13th, I received a call from the Paris dispatcher notifying me of a major attack in Paris. I drove straight to our base and started working on logistics right away. We first responded in the 11th arrondissement of Paris, near the Bataclan concert hall. We were told there were other attacks taking place in other sectors of Paris. I then drove to the paramedics logistics command center of Paris to coordinate all our paramedics and vehicles that responded that night. We made sure that all our personnel had what they needed to rescue the victims. The complexity regarding these attacks was different from any other mission we've ever had, because it was not an isolated incident on one location. It was unpredictable. Every 30 minutes, there was another sector of Paris under attack. So anytime, another event could happen, anywhere. That evening, we had over 250 paramedics from our federation. But there were also other units from ER services, many of them volunteered, and offered their help right away. We needed to work out how everyone was going to be dispatched in Paris. We heard many gunshots in Paris that evening, and we also needed to keep our volunteers safe as well. But some places were not that safe when we showed up.
On n'est jamais préparé à ce type d'intervention, surtout à Paris. On est spécialisé dans le secours.
Nothing prepares you for this kind of mission, especially in Paris. Most of the time we deal with urban emergencies. But that felt more like a first aid war situation.
Qu'est-ce que je vais voir arriver sur place? Ce qui était vraiment choquant et ce qui est ressorti intégralement des personnes.
When I was on my way over, I was wondering, what will I see over there? What was shocking for us is not to see one body on the ground, but it was to see many people on the ground and having to step over these bodies. We are used to seeing one person wounded, but when you see hundreds of people on the ground with blood and the smell, it touches you. It affects you. We have had many debriefing meetings between us. We still have these meetings. So our paramedics that were there that night can still pursue their work and still be the best on the field. We want to be able to help in any kind of situation. That's what our job is all about. Benjamin Marcus for Our View, Paris, France.